Hi,
Hello,
Adele.
go.
Hi,
I'm in
Adele.
gallery view, but I can only see like a tenth of you guys. Um, all right, so this is crazy. So I met Molly, who I guess regularly comes to this meeting or is one of the members here in another online meeting last like Thursday, and she asked me to speak, and now there's 260 people here, and I'm mildly panicking. I thought it would be like 10 people, but thanks to coronavirus, it's like a small YPOP, but that's also super amazing. Um, it's just, I think it's really cool how like in the last, not even a week really, there's already like multiple meeting lists going around for online meetings. There's groups on Facebook that I'm a part of. Like, churches around here are closing. I'm sure some of you are experiencing that too. Like I went to go to a meeting the other day and the church was just closed. And, I'm not new and I wasn't like craving a drink or anything, but it must be scary to be new in the rooms at this time. So I'm really glad to, hear there's people here with under 90 days. Keep coming back. Stay, actually. Don't leave. It's much harder to come back, I think. I'll share that a little bit. And congratulations to everyone who has an anniversary. I've met some of you before at YPAs and things, and I actually saw someone who I got sober in Albany, New York, Brian C. So anyway, I always start my shares with a couple things. First one is my sobriety date is November 16th, 2017. And I have a sponsor and I sponsor people. And this is not my first time. Oh, what is YPOP? YPOP is Young People and Alcoholics Anonymous. If you don't know what that is, talk to someone after the meeting. You got to get involved. But anyway, my first sponsor, who I didn't listen to anything of except for this, was that she told me to read the doctor's opinion every day for 3 weeks. And I thought that was a stupid idea because I didn't know, what the doctor's opinion was. And if you haven't read the doctor's opinion, I definitely recommend it now. And it's my favorite chapter in the big book. And the last line in it is pretty much my story in a nutshell. And so I earnestly advise every alcoholic to read this book through, and though perhaps he came to scoff, he may remain to pray. And so I'll just tell you a little bit about what it was like. I grew up in an alcoholic home, but I never wanted to be like my dad. He drank and I resented him for it. So I didn't take like my real first drink until I was like 19. And it escalated really quickly. The first night I drank, it was like fun and cute, and I had some wine with people. And about 3 months later, I was selling prescription drugs. So that's, my escalation. And I guess I was 19 or 20-ish, just turning 20 at that time. And then I studied abroad. I moved to China, and I had always been a really good student, and I was partying so much. I was out until I had to go to class, and I was going to class drunk, and I begged my one friend, like, please don't let me go out. You have to like help me stay in. And, it was already unmanageable and I was powerless at 20. And you can drink legally in China at 20, by the way. Came back to the US, still not 21, back on the alcohol and drugs here. And, just basically that continued. I ended up going back to China for a bit, partying a lot there. If anyone, I know everyone's from everywhere. So if you are an expat somewhere, I'm sure you know what it's like being an expat, especially in China. It's like, if you're a teacher there, if you're, like any kind of foreigner really, a lot of times like you can get away with some stuff in certain areas depending on where it is. And, it was just craziness. There was a street mojito guy, like he made mojitos on the street to go, like in to-go cups, because you can like drink in public there. And I had my own glass, and his name was Billy, and I used to go to Billy the mojito guy and my glass with my name on it. And like, it's nuts. Like, those are things I thought were normal, and I was teaching children too. So anyway, I came back from China in fall of 2015, and I was extremely depressed, and I was basically, I moved back in with my mom because I really didn't have anywhere else to go. And I was basically just doing nothing except like drinking and sleeping. Um, so I decided lives in New Jersey. So I decided I would move back to Albany where I went to school. And about 2 weeks after I moved back there, I attempted suicide. And that was really the beginning of this whole thing. So obviously it didn't work. I go to the hospital, which definitely wasn't my idea because I had just been trying to kill myself. So that was an HP moment, as I call them. And yeah, so I was in the hospital and they were like, you have a lot of things that like you should be getting help for. Like, does anyone ever talk to you about like being bipolar, like substance abuse? And I was just like, no, like no one's ever really told me I have a problem, which wasn't really true. But I mean, I was just kind of like trying to go home because I didn't realize like that my plan was going to backfire and everything. So they sent me to this like dual diagnosis treatment center and in upstate New York, and everybody like they put me on the chemical dependency track there, which I thought was really stupid because I definitely didn't have a problem with drugs and alcohol. And the whole time I was in any of the 12-step meetings, or like I would do like mental health in the morning and chemical dependency in the afternoon. The whole time I was there, I was basically sitting there with my arms crossed. And I remember there was a big book on the table and I was like, I'm never reading that. Like, I don't need this, you know? Once I get out of here, I'm going to be fine. Like maybe I have bipolar disorder. Like I can kind of live with that, but like, that's it. I definitely was just self-medicating, blah, blah, blah. So, I did try to stay sober for a little while. A couple months, I was just I wasn't really doing anything with my life, and I was just kind of hanging out. And then like I smoked a little weed because it was like 420 and my roommate was smoking weed. And then I actually went back to the same place because I was feeling really depressed again. And it was there that I met this guy who lives in Albany. He's still sober. And I was in those stupid chemical dependency meetings again, and he was talking about like YPA, actually, like young people's meetings. And so he gave me some women's numbers, and I contacted them when I got out of the hospital. And then I started going to like Albany young people's meeting, and I got connected with a lot of people there. And then so that was in 2016. So just that year and a couple months, a lot of crazy stuff happened before I got sober this time. But I wasn't really sober because I was like, I mean, I had said I was sober since January, but I had smoked weed that one time. And then like, I still had a prescription for Xanax, and I was kind of like not really using it 100% properly. And then, I had this dental work done, and they gave me some hydrocodone, and it was just, it was like, and I wasn't working a program. So I wasn't really sober. I was like mostly not using drugs, and things got a little bit better just because my life was like a little bit less chaotic. And I was dating people I shouldn't have been dating, and just all kinds of crazy nonsense. So anyway, obviously this is leading to my sobriety date. So it's the end of 2017, and we actually hosted Esquipa, which is the New York State convention. This whole time I'm on host, and I'm like lying, saying I have like a year and everything. And we have our end of the host meeting, which end of the like convention host meeting, if anyone knows what that's like, it's like everybody kind of cries and talks about what a great year it is. And like, I told everybody that I had been lying the whole time and whatever. And everyone was like, oh, it's okay, we love you, blah, blah, blah. But I just felt so awful. And I was like, I don't care anymore, fuck it. And so the next 3 days I drank, and I was absolutely miserable to everyone around me. And there was Kentucky's YPA, Kikipa was coming up that weekend, and everyone was going because Albany like rolls deep everywhere to all the YPAs. Like I drove like 7 guys in a van once to Tennessee to go to Ikipa in 2016. So anyway, they were trying to convince me, and I was like, no, I'm not going. I want to drink. I like this. And my friend who's not in the program called me, and he somehow convinced me to pour out what remaining alcohol I had left. And I ended up flying down to Kentucky on Saturday morning of the convention because, I just can't be a normal person. And I'm very stubborn. So anyway, I flew down there and I had 3 days at the time. And, I went up on stage because I was one of the people that had like the lowest amounts of time. And I got like a really tiny big book and a daily reflections, which my dog actually just ate last week, which is kind of funny. And anyway, I've been sober ever since. And, it's really like, I have to say that like the fellowship has been a huge part of like keeping me in the rooms, and it's like, I wasn't the person that was like necessarily always going back out hard, but the fact that I always felt welcome and everything was really important. So I started doing the steps with a sponsor and I went through them pretty quickly. And I tried to be as honest and thorough as I could because I like wanted to kind of prove that it wouldn't work for me and I was special. Like I was still like terminally unique for a really long time. But I got through the steps and my sponsor was like, "Oh, are you gonna go drink? Like we're done with the steps." And I was like, "No, I don't want to drink anymore." So I definitely had like a spiritual awakening as a result of the program. And I since then, my life has not been like perfect by any means. I've had a lot of problems that have come up in my life. I actually was hospitalized again for depression, but I've stayed sober through all of that. I moved and I lost my health insurance and I didn't have a job for a long time. And I, just now I'm getting like back, my life is like getting back, like I have health insurance and income and everything. And like this last year has been like really, really difficult, honestly. And, but it's my problems today are not like the problems I had when I was drinking and using. When I was drinking and using, my problems were like worrying if I was like gonna get pregnant or have an STD, or like if I hurt anyone the night before, or like what I did, or if I did something illegal, or like knowing I did something illegal and worrying I was gonna get caught. And I never had any legal ramifications, but I've done things that I should be in like Chinese prison for. So I it's just, and that for a long time kept me thinking like, well, I'm not as bad as these people, that really, really kept me out, was comparing myself to other people and not identifying with the feelings and emotions and the experience, and I'm really grateful today that now, like when I go into a meeting, I can identify with someone that doesn't look anything like me and is from a completely different walk of life, but like we have that common peril, like it says in the book. And it's just I don't know, it's really cool. And I have a really good group of people here now. Like I've kind of found my little fellowship of people, and one of them's on. So hi, Jamie, thank you for coming. And she has 11 months today, or tomorrow she'll have 11 months. So congratulations to Jamie. And yeah, I don't know. It's been a crazy, crazy ride for those last 4 years, because even though my sobriety date changed, I consider like the time I entered the program to be January 2016, and that's really when all this started. And I have to say, like, I'm not depressed right now, and now I'm, I don't know what's going to happen with this whole coronavirus thing, but I don't feel really like scared or like I have to panic, because like I've been through so many things, and like whether I was recognizing it or not at the time, like my higher power was always there to guide me through it. And like I know that it's going to be the same thing, and I listened to like the St. Francis prayer before I logged in, and I just love that prayer so much, because it's like it just gets you out of your head, like, and it just really, it's like basically about like being of service and just being kind. And I feel like that's a lot of what this whole program is. And like just the fact that there's almost 300 people on an online meeting right now on either Monday night, morning, or Tuesday, or wherever you are, I don't know, in your time zones. it's amazing, like I said, that we all come together. And I actually learned a word this week that I want to share because I never heard this before. It's egregore. It's Egregore. It's Greek. Anyway, it is an energized astral form produced consciously or unconsciously by human agency. In particular, a strongly characterized form, usually an archetypal image produced by the imaginative and emotional energies of a religious or magical group collectively. And I think if we start selling God as like magic instead, we'd, attract many more people. But an astral shape of any kind, deliberately formulated by a magician to carry a specific force. So that's a little bit like magical, but the point is that it's kind of like this collective consciousness that gets like shaped by what the group wants. And that's like how AA is run. And it's just taught me so much about life. And like, I really did think at the beginning that I was gonna, I just needed to stop drinking and doing drugs, and it really wasn't, that's really not my problem. My problem is that like, I can't deal with life, and I still have problems like that today where I get really upset at things, but now I feel like there's always something I can do about it that's not picking up a drink. I can call somebody, I can go to a meeting, can log on to a meeting anytime because there's a million online meetings. I can pray, I can be of service. And it's just like, after, secretly doing my own thing, like not telling anyone and thinking that I could that I was really getting over on people. It's just not the way I want to live, like living this way is so much better. Like I have nothing like weighing heavily on my spirit, and it feels good to have that. And if I do, mess something up, I can apologize. I don't always like apologizing at first, but we do, and we have a way to do that. And I've repaired a lot of relationships, and it's just, I want to end so everyone can have time because there's a lot of people. But I don't know, I really was very, very skeptical of all this. I thought I was too smart and too good for it. And I thought that taking that first step and admitting I was powerless meant that I was weak. And it really isn't. It's the opposite. And I've just, I look forward to staying in the program for a while and hopefully the rest of my life, but one day at a time. And Molly did tell me that I pick a topic. So if that's true, I'd like to do one day at a time, because I just think right now there's so much of like, oh, what are we going to do next week? And this quarantine stuff. And I know I teach and my school's closed and the kids are all asking me. And it's like, I think we should all just try to stay present in the moment. So one day at a time is going to be my choice for the topic. So thank you so much for letting me share. Thank you for asking me to speak, Molly. And nice to meet you all. And thank you.
Well, thanks, Adele.
Thank you.
Thanks, Adele.
Yeah.
Thanks, Adele.